All right. So this is how my day went yesterday.
Okay.
And I know I told you about it, but we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
All right. So when I got up Friday morning, I only had one thing to do, and that was to go over to Kat's house and work on the boyfriend. That was it. That was the only thing that I had to do. That's fine.
Uh-huh.
That is not how that one day went. I don't know what was wrong with that day. I don't know what happened, but I went from having nothing to do to like everything to do. It was stressful. So that morning we got up, we got ready, I dropped you off at school, and that's when you told me that you needed to be picked up early. And I was like, oh, because I had reminded you, I was like, I think I have to pick you up late. You were like, no, pick me up early. And I'm like, why? And you were like, oh, pep rally day. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I adjusted my break schedule. That's adjustment number one. Let's just buckle up.
Yeah.
Okay, so adjustment number one to my break schedule. So I went to the park to go for my walk, and I'm like, I'm halfway through, a little bit more, and I'm thinking about taking my shoes off, doing some grounding, just kind of walking in the grass, when I get a text from work saying I have a 10 o'clock appointment. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I get in the car, and I go to work, and as I am getting that client on the table, I get a text from Lee asking if I'm working today, and can I work on them? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And so now I'm like, I'm having to alter my break schedule again. And so I go and I work on my client. I get them up and I'm like, I text Lee and I'm like, I am about to check out my client. I'll be there soon. So now I have to book it from SoCo all the way up to North Downtown at lunchtime, when every student who can't cook and every freaking employee who decides I'm not going to eat what I brought today when I could have tacos hits the road. And so I get to Lee's. I'm freaking out a little bit because like it's taking me forever. And as I'm working on them, I get a call from a freaking insurance company. And I'm like, what? Why is everybody blowing up my phone? So I turn it off and I'm like, not now. And so I finish up and I'm packing up my table. I'm putting everything in the car. I'm in the car trying to get back to SoCo to pick you up, right? Because that's what I have to do now. And so I'm like, okay, I call them on the road and I'm like, you rang? And this guy goes, hi, this is Dylan. And I'm like, I don't know Dylan from Adam. This is some new guy. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so he goes, do you know that your policy's about to lapse? And I'm like, what? When?
Oh no.
So I did. I was like, when? When is it about to lapse? He goes, tomorrow. And I'm like, y'all are open tomorrow. So I was like, okay.
How is that fair?
So I said, so I'm on my way to an appointment. Will the office be open after 5? And he goes, let me ask. No. And I'm like, oh, shoot. No. And I said, I'm going to have to call you back.
Nope. Sorry.
So, meanwhile, Time who waits for no one is laughing at me at this point as I start texting Kelsey, who has some money for me. And I'm like, I'm texting with one hand, I'm watching the road with the other, and I'm driving like as if I have two heads. I do not. And I'm freaking out, and I'm trying to get to where you are, and I'm trying to like make good time because I'm running late. And I'm just thinking, how am I going to squeeze this all in? Because I now have to go back to SoCo and then go back to North Downtown and then back to SoCo again in order to make my appointment. And I'm just kind of like freaking out. So I text Kelsey. She says, come on by. And I'm like, okay. So I get to the school and I'm standing there telling them you have an appointment, which you don't. It was just me. And I yeet you in the car. And now I have to go back to North Downtown, lightly tap the brakes as you flying squirrel it out of the vehicle because you don't like the idea of getting in the back of the car and piling all the stuff on top of you to hide because you don't want to talk to Kelsey's eldest. So I drop you off and I go over and I knock because the doorbell is apparently busted. And the eldest is the one that opens the door and I'm looking at him like, you're not the one I want to talk to. Which I then have to translate into some kind of friendly greeting because they're asking me a question. It's like, how are you? And everything in my brain is like, I'm not okay.
Did he ever ask about me?
No, he did not.
Thank goodness.
So then I had to navigate a few extra people. Everyone I come in contact with, I'm like, you're not Kelsey. You're not Kelsey. Where's Kelsey?
Where's Kelsey?
I'm freaking out. So she hands me the envelope and I'm giving her this hurried explanation of, oh, thank you so much. I'm glad, thank you for helping me out. And I'm trying to get out of the house as fast as possible because then as I yeet myself into the driver's seat, I now have to call Dylan back. And I'm like, hey, Dylan, listen, so I need you to be ready to take my payment when I get there because I am literally going to have to walk in, slap my payment down on the desk, and leave because I got another appointment. He goes, yes, ma'am. And I'm like, okay, we can do this. So I race in. I turn to the only male in the building and I go, Dylan? And he says, yes, ma'am. And I'm like, how much? And he says, $275 and change. And I proceed to hand him 200s, 320s, and 210s, at which point my brain is like, the dial-up tone, because I cannot math all of a sudden. I'm under so much pressure. I'm so stressed out that I can't count.
Oh, no.
And so I'm sitting there going, beep, like, and he goes, 280? And I said, yes. And he goes, he says to me, are you okay with the $4 carrying over? And I'm like, absolutely. Because in my brain, I'm going, are you kidding me?
Yes, Dylan, dear, I'm okay with the extra $4. Take the money so I can go home.
I'm like, take it and go. Take it and go. So then he says,
I feel that.
Then he says the words that I'm like, I really did not need to hear.
The words that no one wants to hear when they're late.
Would you like a receipt?
We all know the receipt machine never works.
So, okay,
so
here's
let me
the
guess.
thing. Here's the
Let
thing.
me guess.
Out of my mouth comes the phrase, that would be lovely. Like, I need a receipt. And I'm like, my brain is going, what? Why would I say that? It's just going to end up on the floor of my car to become mulch. But here we are.
To become mulch.
Like, seriously, it's just going to end up on the floor. No. I think it's there now.
Oh, no. Oh,
so then he says, if it will print, and my heart just
I knew
sinks.
it. I knew it.
I'm like, why me? All right, so I'm like, if it'll print, Dylan, no. So he's looking at the printer, and of course, I'm half deaf these days. I can't hear anything coming from the stupid box.
Right.
And so, as far as I know, like, it's KO'd, it's dead. So I wait 5 seconds out of respect for the dead before asking, could you email it to me?
His email always works.
Right? I should have just asked for that in the first place. And so then he says yes. And as he says yes, the printer's like, huh? And proceeds to spit out my receipt as slowly as possible. I've never seen a receipt printed that slowly. I'm like, what is happening?
The machine was like, I have competition now. Now I have to be awake. Great. Oh, God.
So he takes it out and he has to sign it, and I'm just standing there vibrating, waiting to get to the door. And so I bolt for the door, and I have to slalom around like way too many people in the 5 feet between their front door and my driver's side door. There's like so many people, and I'm like, oh, everything in me's going, get out of the way!
Get out the way!
Oh, my God. So
everybody move!
I whip out of the out of the parking lot. And I'm like, okay, now I have to get back. I'm in north, and I have to get to south. And I'm like, I'm going to be late. I don't even know how I'm going to do this. So then I get on the road. I have to hit the highway. And of course, I'm hitting traffic. I am hitting traffic at 2:30 when every single student who did not have their taco that morning is now going, it's taco o'clock.
Taco o'clock.
And every person who has managed to like, oh, hey, I'm leaving the office early on a Friday. Now they are in the way.
Oh, no.
And I'm zipping around, like I'm moving around people trying to be polite, but everything in my brain is going, would you please just go die in the ditch? If you wouldn't mind, so that I can get to where I need to be. I'm sorry if that's aggressive, but come on, man. Like, you're doing 50 and a 70, and you're making my life difficult. I beg of you. Just pull off into the grass.
Maybe stay there for a second.
Oh my God, yes. And so, okay, I end up getting there roughly 15 minutes early, which I was surprised because every slow person on the road. God, it was awful. So I get there 15 minutes early. I'm at Kat's house, and I'm like, okay, all right. All of a sudden, I can't remember whether to park in the driveway or on the curb. And I'm like, I've been here before. I've done this before. What is wrong with me? So I text her and I'm like, driveway or should I park on the curb? She's like, no, park in the driveway. And I'm like, of course. And so I pull into her driveway and I'm getting everything out. And as I'm getting everything out of the car and I'm walking up, some dude comes up behind me. Like, he's walking up behind me. And I'm like, this is it.
Behind you?
This is how I die.
Good thing.
This is how I die, right next to the Christmas cactus with no blossoms left. That's probably what they're going to plant on my grave, right? Like, this is it. This is the end.
The little cactus.
Screw the gravestone. Just give me the cactus. The sad little cactus. The only thing to mark my passing.
Here lies Kit, buried with a cactus.
Oh my god. So no, he walks up behind me, and I'm like in between him and the door, and I'm thinking, oh god. And he introduces himself, and he's like, hi, I'm the boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, of course you are. I have never wanted to come home so badly at the end of a day. My god, that was awful.
That sounded awful.
Well, I woke up, I had one thing to do. One.
And throughout the day, not all at once, throughout the day, you kept getting new things.
Everything. My phone was not quiet the entire day.
I feel like for you, yesterday was one of those times where it's close to like Final Destination.
Right. Oh my god, it was awful.
It's terrible.
I kept feeling like any minute now, I'm just gonna like KO side of the street. Who's the lady passed out in the ditch?
Oh no, that's just Kit. She's fine.
Death from overwork.
Holly, just like, Mom.
Nudge me with your toe.
Mom, are you okay? Do
I am
need
not.
to call someone?
Yes, you do. Oh my god. But it was like every time I turned around, someone was texting me. And like, I have never had to pack.
Everyone just leave me alone.
Oh, so bad. I have never had to pack that much in one day at the last minute, every single minute. It was nothing but last minute work.